GDP number summed up over all the periods available for that year. So it just shows you a sum up. The end of period gives you the last period available for your frequency chosen. So you'll get used to using this as you start using it in real life scenarios. So like you look up CPI or you look up new housing starts and see how it can be aggregated, and you might start seeing that there's a smoother way to view the data if you view it as an average over that period or a sum at the end of the period. The next thing is units. So
I got ahead of myself. This is like the coolest part. Like the units. That's what I was talking about.
You're going to see real quickly why it's so cool. So let's just go back to the average. So by default, GDP is shown in billions of dollars. So right now we're at 115,000 billions of dollars. Or I'm sorry, 18,000 billion. I mean, it's tough to say. At GDP. And so if you wanted to see not just GDP, but change in billions of dollars, what is GDP dropping announcement by announcement? In this case, I'm doing annually. So year over year is GDP dropping. You could do the same thing from a year ago, but then you need to re-aggregate your data to show quarterly. So now you're looking at quarterly change, and you're saying Q1 of 2016 compared to Q1 of 2015. That's what changed from a year ago, right? So pretty straightforward. Then you get into the percentages. What is the percent change point after point? What is the percent change from a year ago? Like all of these ways to view the data are almost necessary when it comes to looking at something like GDP.
I think the big thing in why it's so useful is different indicators are kind of presented in different ways. Some are presented at just an aggregate level. Some are looking at change from last month, last quarter. Some are change from a year ago. So
like when you hear jobless claims, what they do is change in.
Yep, change in, and they'll want to look at from the previous month.
Yeah.
GDP, a lot of times you'll hear year over year, or but then some people want to see it quarter to date, and this makes it quarter over quarter. So this makes it really easy to get that going.
Yeah. So it's a very nice feature, and then compounded annually kind of normalizes the data for you, so you can kind of see the how things are trending at any given point. So if you're going to compound the change period over period, or you're going to compound the change annually, you can have both of those done at this point. The last thing kind of is the most difficult to understand, but it is a very cool tool. So what it does is it sets the initial value, whatever initial date, to 100. So in this case, the date is shown right here. At the beginning of the U.S. recession was June 1st, 2009. So you're setting this date to your 100 line. And so any number above this date, or any number past this date, is offset from 100. So if it's at 200, it's 200% above that date. If it's at 300, it's 300% above that date.
So it's kind of like indexing it into like a constant comparable. Makes it a little bit much more useful.
So we get this from the data provider. They say that these dates. So we get the dates from the data provider and the general logic to do this. So like you can say from the end of the recession or the start of the recession, or all the recession factors. So the recession started in November of '48. My new normal.
I remember that. A rough year.
Yeah, back after the war, everybody was kind of coming home.
It was a tough Christmas.
So yeah, so it's funny, we joke and say that I'll play on it that it's so old ago it's insignificant, but this data has been charted for that long. They've been the Fed looks at data from the 40s. People look at this data for a very, very long time.
Oh yeah.
And now you have it available for you. But Of course, you can adjust the time frame. So let's say you only want to see a year, or you want to see a specific set of time. You know, of course, you can do all that pretty stuff. And then you can color it. You know, I want to see an area chart as opposed to a line, or I want my cursor to be pink.
Oh.
You can change your color of the actual chart. So if you want it green in your background, oh, that's horrible. There we go. So there. So now you can customize the colors to anything you want. We always allow you, make them as pretty as you feel.
It's like the 70s color theme, I think.
Yeah. And then of course you can share it. So if you share it, what you'll be sharing is this Fred chart with your customization. So if you made any customization to the frequency of the aggregation of the units, or any type of custom range, or any type of coloring, you would be sharing all of that with your Fred charts. Cool. So any questions that we need to address now that we kind of just dropped the chart on them?
Right through there. So can you go back and just go over real quick how to navigate around the different data points that are in there?
Absolutely. So at the top right here, Fred, you'll see a home button. It looks like a little house. Click on this. Anytime that you get into a chart and you want to go back to the start of this window that helps you, find what data is available. So you can see that, again, in bold are the categories. And so if you wanted to click on them, you can click on them directly, or if you want to find, I'm interested in technology. So, from technology, you can get the Tech Pulse indicator, which is an indicator built by, actually I don't know who it's built by. I know you hear a lot about the Tech Pulse when it comes to those NASDAQ and like the Q's analysts.
Yeah.
They say that the Tech Pulse is increasing here in the last few months, and that's what they're referring to as the San Fran Tech Pulse. And so it gives you how much interest is there in technology at any given point in time, and how has it changed over the years. And so again, let me just go back home. What I did is I just found the subcategory called technology, and I clicked on that, and it just happened to have 4 San Francisco pulses in there. And so if you wanted to go back at the top left, you can always just navigate right back to where you were. But you can. The nice thing, another cool thing about this is, let's say you wanted to see like regional data, right? So U.S. regional data. Go to the state level, and so. Sorry, Ben's computer's screwing up on me. You might be froze. I think Ben's computer froze up on me. Again, I'm blaming Ben. He's just going to do.
There we go.
Alright, so yeah, then we go to the states level. And then I'm from a great state called Nebraska. And I'm from a very great county.
The cradle of American civilization as we know it.
Exactly. Furnace County, Nebraska. And so I'm from Furnace County, Nebraska. Furnace County, Nebraska has a population of, which you will be able to see here shortly. And so you can get all of this, for even my small county in Nebraska, they have estimate of median household income, bachelor's degree data, unemployment rate data. I wanted to find the actual population, civilian labor force. So it has how many people are employed in the county. Personal income. So let's see how much people are making in
50 G's.
Wow, that has got to be wrong. But that's good. You can see that the personal income per per capita in my little county in Nebraska is rising. I would say this is probably a trend throughout the entire U.S. And I say that because I've looked at Fred, but you can now look for little niche pieces of the economy or of the country that aren't seeing that same trend. So you could go into your county, wherever it may be, and find the specific data that you're looking for, even at your county level.
And some of this stuff, and people will say, well, it looks like it hasn't been updated in a while. If the census puts this out, the census, is going to do things. Not everything's done, monthly, quarterly, or even annually. Some things are done every 2 to 4 years. And sometimes even longer than that. So for some of these, keep that. I'm sure we'll get a lot of
a lot of questions.
A lot of questions of why isn't this updated since 2012 or 2010 or whatever.
Yeah.
And all that's just when that's the last time that data. I don't think they send very many people to Furnace County, Nebraska every month to check on how much they're making.
I remember we used to, in my small town, we used to kind of keep a pulse on the census by how often they updated that big sign that, as you drive in from the highway with the population written on the sign. So that's how we knew that, they must have done a new census because they gave us a new sign. And I think it was about every 10 years growing up that they would change that sign. But Scott's back in the room. So Scott, this is our economic data. I know
this is fantastic.
I haven't given you a personal tour yet, so I'm going to consider this your personal tour.
Awesome.
You can see that it's a new tab under Analyze. So you'll go to the Analyze tab and you'll see this sub-tab called Economic Data. This is kind of the landing page. But really the heart and the meat of this feature is all of the data points provided, right? We have, 395,000 new data points. And so there's tons and tons. Like you can look up like GDP in Singapore, or you can look up population change and growth and employment rates in Singapore. So it's the depth of this data is immense. But we wanted to make a landing page and kind of group these things together in a sensible way to help people get in here and say, okay, well, I know you got a lot of data. How do I use it? What is it? What is it anything I'm interested in? So you can go into commodities, and the commodities aren't really grouped in a better way. We're working on the ability to sort them by the most popular, but there's no sub-categorization of commodities. So you'll see that global price of iron ore is the #1 commodity showing up. So you can look at how iron ore has changed over the last 50 years. In this case, I guess it's only about 35, but you get the price of iron ore just went through the roof. Like, is this a bubble? This almost looks like a bubble.
Oh yeah. And again, all these mining stocks are huge in the news the last couple of days.
Yeah.
BHP Billiton, Rio Tinto. A lot of these are Australian companies that exported a ton to China. So this all corresponds with the China boom, the housing boom. And again, now we're looking back and seeing that they overbuilt a lot of these cities, and they have ghost cities and whatnot. But they've really backed off all that demand for copper and iron ore. So these have been hot commodities for the last few years. And
So
look how that dropped off.
Yeah, so that's why that price fell off, right?
Right, and so did stocks.
Yeah.
But now they've recently been starting
It's so
to
cool.
see the comeback.
I'm glad to get this out. I feel like something's coming off my chest because I don't really know how it can be applicable or the stories behind why something like iron ore fell off. But you as professionals, you and everyone in swim lessons know how to use this stuff. And so I'm finally getting to get this in front of users that can show me how powerful this is. But let's just go back into let's say exports. So let's look up some export data. Bahamas to Delaware. Look at Vietnam from Texas. Exports from South Africa to Puerto Rico.
Incredibly specific.
Exports and services, travel. So let's see travel services over the last 50 years. So travel services through the roof, right?
Right.
So let me show you a feature of Fred. If you click on the symbol actions at the top right, you can copy this crazy long symbol out. This is a series symbol, right? They have, so the symbol is going to be hard to read with your eyes, but if you copy this out, you can come over here to the charts. So I have a chart of Apple that's looking at 1 year of daily data. I just simply pasted this Fred data in. I'm going to wait for it to pull up. It's pretty unique. If it doesn't pull up, I probably have a problem because of the aggregation. So this only comes out once a quarter.
Got it.
So if I was trying to chart it on a daily level, I'm not giving the chart enough data to actually render it. So now what this means is now I can do all of my thing scripting, all of my studies, all of my comparisons to any given Fred sample. So if I click on study and I go to add study, I can choose compare with, and I can just simply compare this price movement with the price movement of SPX. Let me double click here and put this on so you can see that it almost like look at this change. Like so, as the S&P 500 sold off there in 2008 in the crash, look what travel did. Travel spending follows the market. It's not too surprising, but the level of correlation is a bit surprising. So it's the analysis that you can now do with this economic data on your TOS chart or in ThinkScript or even in watch lists. Before the show, you and I were talking about the new watch lists that are available. So you'll see that I have this watch list called interest rates. And so come Saturday, you'll all have a default watch list called interest rates. It'll be found under public, and then again, the name will just be interest rates. So what interest rates are the 30-year, 20-year, so forth, all the way down to the 3-month Treasury notes. The rate of those actual notes. So what they're paying at any given point in time. And so this piece, let alone right here, you'll have to go either searching for a third-party website or get an expensive trading software to get these quotes. Like these quotes don't come with charting features. These quotes don't come with a lot of trading packages. The expensive ones they do, but not the free.
I like the way this is laid out. It just takes you from the 30-year bond all the way down to the 3-month, actually called a bill, or short-term note.
Yeah.
And that's pretty nice.
Charting the other way, look at it and you can see that curve. And you can now do things. So let's say I actually have my study notes. So let me I think I call it 10. Yeah. So look at this. So I was charting the 10-year minus the 2-year spread. So this is that spread, the 10-year minus the 2-year. So, whatever you'll hear them talk about the 2-year, the 10-year minus the 2-year. That's what we were charting here. Double check.
So if it's 10-year minus 2, it's kind of like a shorter-term yield curve.
Right, and that's kind of what
it is.
Yeah, what
charting the yield curve. You see how the longer rates in 04 were much higher than the short-term rates. Now it's kind of creeping back up that way.
Mm-hmm. And is that the trend? Is that what we're seeing? Maybe. We've always been saying. For the last 3 years, interest rates can't go any lower, right? This is so
you're realizing 30% of the world. We were talking about this in swim lessons. That sovereign bonds, like bonds based on different countries. 30% of the world's supply is under 0.
30% of the world's paying negative interest
and
rates?
80% of the world is under 1%.
Holy cow.
That's crazy.
Yeah. We're in looking at this data yesterday. There's some other data about interest rates, and we were looking at the all of today's, like a snapshot of today's interest rates across all the countries charted. So Russia's paying 11% of their 10-year, and Switzerland's paying negative 0.5%.
Yeah, negative.
Like it's just. That negative 0.5 is hard for me to conceive because I wasn't ever taught economics in a way that I can understand it fully. So to see negative interest rates, I know it from a trading point of view, like pricing out options based on interest rates, based on dividend. I don't know how to price in negative rates. I can't. It doesn't compute. Yeah. And so it's a very weird thing for me to see.
Tough on savers. Well, listen, I know we're kind of a little bit past our time, but did you get a chance to cover everything, or should we do another? Let's do another session.
Let's do. Well, I won't have time this week. Tonight at 3:20 Central Time, ThinkScript Lounge will go into much further depth.
Okay.
So if you want to see more, if you have questions before this weekend, before you can actually touch it, we'll cover it tonight at ThinkScript Lounge, 3:20 Central Time. We'll just go over a little bit slower. A little bit more in depth, especially when it comes to, taking the data away from the Fred chart and trying to use it.
That gives someone an alternative to